Hey guys, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed channel. I've been waiting on this video for a little while and actually getting a lot of requests from you guys to ask about breaking down credit scores further. We've talked recently about what it takes to get an actual perfect 850 FICO credit score, so be sure to check out that video. Today we're gonna start from a more typical type of credit scoring range where people actually fall. It's not common that we see 850s. So what is actually considered to be great credit when you're out looking for debt weapons? Now, most credit scores, including the two most commonly used, FICO and Vantage Score 3.0, use a range of between 300 all the way to 850, and a score of 700 and up is typically considered good credit. Now, within that range, there are different categories from bad to excellent, and they generally look a little like this. Excellent credit is most often defined as a 750 and better, whereas good credit is somewhere between the 700 to 749 range, fair credit between 650 and 699, poor credit between 600 to 649, and then last and certainly least, bad credit, which is below 600. Now, as you dig through our videos here on the VIP Financial Ed YouTube channel, you're gonna see that we're always recommending targeting a 760 and up. And even though we've told you often that a 740 and better will almost always help you become and remain eligible for the best interest rates and the best terms and the best insurance policies, the reason that you're going to want to continue to work for a 760 or even an 800 or better is to build room for natural fluctuation that happens when you're out applying for different loans. Now, remember, lenders all have their own guidelines of what they consider to be a good credit score. A lender that's looking to approve more borrowers, for instance, might approve applicants with credit scores of a 680 or higher, whereas other lenders might offer a similar type of a loan product but be more strict and only approve scores of a 700 or higher. There might be a third lender that offers credit to anyone with a score of at least a 680 but charges a higher interest rate and fees. So the key will always boil down to asking the right questions ahead of time. Now, I'm always curious, and you may be too, about how you rate. All borrowers should aspire to have great credit. After all, great credit is one of the most important factors when it comes to leveraging other people's money and creating wealth, while also getting the best terms when we do that. Trying to narrow down a specific number that can represent good credit can be a little difficult. After all, there are many different credit scores that are used by lenders when underwriting a loan application, and what one lender might view as good credit may fall into another lender's fair credit rating. Not to mention that you likely score differently from one model to the next, which is an important piece to today's episode. Now, the good news is that there are broad rules of thumb that we can all follow that'll help you figure out whether or not your credit scores are good or not. So let's go ahead and break that down. Let's start with FICO. What is a FICO score? You have a FICO score for each of the three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And each of these scores is going to be based on different information that teaches the bureaus about you and your patterns. This available data may very well differ from one bureau to the next. They are not required to report to all three bureaus throughout the year. One trade line or one creditor may report to just one or two of the bureaus and not all three. So it will begin to be different between bureaus over time. The Fair Isaac Corporation was the creator of the FICO credit algorithm, and subsequently these are the scores that supposedly are used by over 90% of lenders when it comes to providing you with a loan. And when they grant the interest rates and terms and decide whether or not you're approved, most of the time FICO is what they're going to be reviewing. All the data contained in consumer credit reports is basically analyzed by this algorithm, and it's basically identifying these patterns over time. And the resulting FICO credit score is solely determined by what is found within a person's individual credit file. The information helps estimate the level of future risk. It's going to give a lender an idea as to how likely you are to repay your loan, and whether or not they should offer you this product or any other form of credit for that matter. Now, because the FICO credit score can only be determined by information that's found inside a credit file, it's essential to look over your credit reports every single year. You're actually going to be trying to find inaccuracies or discrepancies in order to ensure that everything is what it should be and up to date. Now, what I want you to do is check the description below for a link to creditkarma.com. This is not some form of paid sponsorship. We just rely on Credit Karma regularly for our own credit reports and data. So check that out. It's a completely free resource, and you are entitled to one credit report and file from each of the bureaus every 12 months anyway. So you could reach out to Experian or Equifax or TransUnion and request your own personal credit file every 12 months. Today, that's much easier to do through other resources and do so far more regularly than once per year. Let's talk quickly about the Vantage scoring model. A Vantage score is actually a credit scoring model that emerged over a decade ago. And I remember it coming onto the scene, very strange to suddenly see all of these other credit scoring algorithms appear. It was actually a joint venture at the time between Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. The Vantage score was designed to compete with Fair Isaac's FICO credit scoring model, interestingly enough. Now, when determining if you're a good candidate, a lender is going to look at your credit scores. And most lenders, as I'd said earlier, use FICO credit scores for that. But some lenders are actually starting to look at Vantage scores as well in order to further determine future financial risks, your likelihood of repayment, etc., and whether or not they should actually provide you an offer for any of their products. So be conscious of both. Both of these credit scoring formulas use very much of the same information. So things like payment history, things like the type of credit you have, things like recent inquiries and new accounts, the overall age of your file, the amount you've borrowed compared to what's available to you, so your utilization ratio. However, if the length of your credit history is not lengthy, meaning that you don't have at least 6 months worth of history, you may be required to monitor through Vantage score, because FICO will actually require a minimum of 6 months to even create a score for you, as well as a minimum of 1 reported account within the last 6 months. So if you've had a credit reporting history that's gone stale, you can actually lose your scores with FICO. So let's talk really quickly about the actual different range scales that exist. We're asked regularly in our comments section about this. There are many different types of credit scores that are available to different lenders. They each develop their own credit scoring range. Now, why is that important to you? Well, because if you get your credit score, you need to know the credit scoring range that you're looking at in order to understand where your number fits in. Here are the credit scoring ranges that are used by major credit scoring models. The first is, of course, FICO. We mentioned that that's a 300 to 850 range, as is the Vantage Score 3.0. The Vantage Score Scale version 1 and 2, however, is just 501 to 990, whereas Experian's Plus Score, as it's called, is a 330 up to an 830, very strange. You've also got TransUnion scoring model called the New Account Score 2.0, which is a 300 starting point up to that standard 850. And of course, Equifax has their own scoring model going from just 280 up to that 850 mark too. So it can be very confusing. And with all the scores, the higher the number, of course, then the lower the risk. With that being said, consumers with higher scores are more likely to be approved for credit they're applying for, whereas people with lower scores are going to be less likely. Additionally, they also tend to get the best terms, the best interest rates, the best insurance premiums. As we'd mentioned, insurance looks at credit too. So very, very, very important to your bottom line cash flow to be conscious of your credit. If your FICO score is an 840, for instance, you're just 10 points away from having perfect credit, that elusive 850 score that we recently talked about. Whereas if you have an 840 with a Vantage Score 2.0, it's not as impressive because you're 150 points away from a perfect credit score. So make sure you understand what your scores are. Don't just assume your scores are good because you've paid your bills on time or you don't have any collection accounts that you're aware of. The only way to know whether or not you have great credit is to check. And as I'd said, creditkarma.com tends to be the best place for you to get access to the Vantage Score 3.0 model. Now, while that is different than FICO, if you have terrific Vantage Score 3.0 credit scores, chances are you're going to have at least good or even great FICO credit scores, if not excellent there as well. Which means it's not worth it to go out and spend any money getting access to these accounts. The key is preservation of income. The key is how much money can you have left over at the end of each month. That is your leftover net cash flow position, which is going to determine your ability to make more choices and have more options. So cash flow is king, meaning don't spend money unnecessarily on credit scores you don't need. Now, make sure you stay tuned to the channel. We're gonna be dropping a video talking about my personal credit. I'm curious to see, where do I rate now? We recently applied for a home equity line of credit debt weapon on an investment property, which we talked about in a recent video called How I Lost $150,000 in One Day. Make sure you check that out. Let's see how that inquiry affected my credit scores. And what I want to do is go through each and every app that I use that provides me access to a credit score so that you guys can see firsthand the differences between the different reporting. So that'll be a very interesting video. Make sure you become a subscriber so that the post notifications will alert you when that video is dropped. In order to get that, make sure you hit that bell once you subscribe. Also, in order to be eligible for the contest, you're going to want to be a subscriber anyway. We do give away one $25 Amazon gift card each and every week here on this channel up until October. All right, so I just caught wind of this week's $25 Amazon gift card winner. It looks like Miss Cassie Hay. Cassie says that ever since she found our channel, her credit scores have boomed. When she found out about our channel a few months ago, she had barely any credit. Now she said she's rocking a good credit score. It was the tip about paying before the statement closing deadline that did it for her. So make sure you check out that video. We'll link it in the description below. She said it did wonders for her score. She couldn't believe how quickly her scores went up in just a few months. So Cassie, hey, congratulations, my friend. $25 Amazon gift card is all yours to go out there and splurge on something that you've always been wanting. Guys, make sure you remain eligible for our contest. The way you do that, first and foremost, is become a subscriber. All the other contest details are in the description below. I'd love to give you next week's. So make sure you follow them. We'll see you then. You'll be our next champion. I can feel it already. We're also giving away one Skype contest winner where we're giving away a 2-hour one-on-one in-depth implementation coaching session with yours truly over video. And then finally, we're giving away a grand prize in October. Somebody is going to be the lucky winner of a round trip to Denver. We're going to spend the afternoon together, really dig into your finances and just make sure that you feel like you have a clear plan moving into the future. So I can't wait for one of those prizes to go to you. Drop a like on this video to remain eligible and leave a comment below. I'm curious to know, what is the credit scoring mechanism that you use to track your credit scores most often? Are you using Credit Karma as well, or are you using another site? There are a lot of them still right now, more and more seemingly coming out all the time. So I'm curious to know where you're getting your credit scores. Have you noticed a difference in the ranges? Have you noticed a difference between the different bureaus? Very interested to see what you guys have experienced on your research as well. Until we see you on the next video, thank you so much for checking us out. We're well on our way to that 100,000 mark and then on to 150,000 subscribers. Thanks so much for being one of them. We'll see you next time. Until then, make it a great day and take care.